Welcome to the Every Brain is Different podcast. We're here with Jenny Drennan. She is a certified educational therapist, founder of WeThrive Learning, and featured speaker. Her private practice specializes in supporting students with ADHD and math and language processing challenges. Drawing on best practices and the latest research, WeThrive Learning provides one-to-one tailored support for students and parents globally while considering their complex learning profiles. Her passion, work, and insights have earned her recognition as one of the top 10 most influential educators by MSN, the Association of Educational Therapists, CHAD groups, and more. She lives in Newport Beach with her pups and husband. Jenny, we are so excited to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here with you, Samantha and Lauren.
Yeah, can you tell us more about how you're involved in the neurodivergent community?
Yeah. So I started off as a teacher and as in a independent school. And as a teacher there, I started noticing some of my students, despite their best efforts, were just not making the progress we wanted for them, or they were expecting to see. And they were working with an educational therapist at the time, who then I got really close with because we began collaborating on how do we support these kiddos in the classroom. And then I ventured off and got my ed therapy certificate and started doing this work. And what we really do is we work one on one with diverse learners from anywhere from fourth grade to grad school. And so we collaborate with the resource teacher, learning specialists at their school, parents, and really teach them in a way, because the school system is unfortunately, right? It teaches to the masses. And so there's a cookie cutter way of learning. And so not every brain is wired the same. Actually, no brain is wired the same. And so we really try to find ways in which the students to anchor their learning, right? What are the interventions and strategies that we need to teach this child so that they learn? Because everyone can learn anything. It's just in the way it's presented to them.
Yes, I love that you said that anyone can learn. It's just the way it's presented. Because I worked with a client, it was like 10 years ago, and their school told his mom that he was uneducatable. He could not learn. And I was like, that is not true. And she was devastated. She was just like, how how am I going to teach him if he's not educatable? I was like, well, that's not true. Every child can be educated. You just have to present it differently.
Exactly. Yeah. And especially for these kiddos, right? We really need to tap into what are they interested in? What are they engaged with? Really focus on, we use a strength-based approach. So really focusing on their strengths and then thinking about how can we capitalize on these strengths to mitigate these other areas that are more challenging for them, right? Because, you know, th- something may be challenging for them, but in another area, they're absolutely superb and outshines everyone else. And so we really want to think about how do we use these strengths to help them overcome these other areas.
Yes, I love it. Also, I was going to ask you before, I have never heard of an educational therapist. So can you tell us how you became one? Like, what did you have to do to get that? And then what exactly do you do? Like,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, so that I'm finding that it's not really popular in most states. In California, New York, Massachusetts, it is, but it is beginning to spread a bit more, especially after the pandemic and social media. But an educational therapist is really just a SPED ed teacher in some ways. That really, I mean, it's a SPED ed teacher because we know the interventions, but then in addition to that, we know how to read psych ed reports, neuropsych reports, batteries of assessments. And so we analyze the reports to come up with a treatment plan for the child, right? Then, in addition to that, we are case managers for them. So we work in conjunction with therapists, speech pathologists, OTs, anyone who's on pediatricians, anyone who's on the child's team, so that we can collaborate on the interventions and the language that's being shared with for the child, right? The teachers. So that's two parts of it. We work very closely with schools and parents as well. So, very tracking and measuring progress. We provide assessments to them. So, we create our own reports to be able to advocate for this child and also to show the growth or create new goals for them. So, it's really just a one-on-one specialized tailored support.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, do you do parents pay for this, like, privately, or does insurance or Medicaid or other programs fund it? How do
You would think, right, that
Yeah.
it would be funded by insurance.
Yeah.
It does impact everyone's mental health, and not just for the child, the whole family as well, right?
Mhm.
But it's not, unfortunately. And
Mm.
so that is something I think that's in the works, but it's not there yet. So it's mostly privately funded. At We Thrive, we are an NPA, a non-public agency, which means that in California, we can partner with schools to be able to bring these services to students free of cost. And so that is something we're really proud of that we just achieved in June. So really,
Yeah, that's amazing. I know
yeah,
that that's the thing that I don't like about, funding for music therapy. I feel the same way that we are funded through a special program through Medicaid, but other than that, parents just have to pay out of pocket, and, with all the other costs, like, it's difficult for parents to do that even though it does benefit mental health and everything like that. So,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And
I'm not
only the resourceful parents, right? The ones that
Yeah,
really know how to navigate things will get to you using
yeah.
what's given. Yeah. So,
Yes, for sure. Yeah, so tell us, with parents whose child may be struggling in school, like, what are some strategies that you recommend to parents?
yes, it's a broad question. So,
Yes.
I would say first we want to start with getting curious, right? We really want to understand like what could be underneath the struggle. Because there's a lot of different ways you could go about this. It could be diet and sleep. It could be, stress, right? Stress tolerance, drama with friends, anything. It could be a nutrient deficiency. And then it could be a learning difference, right? So really need to dig deep. Could be sometimes we have students that will come to us and they have reading challenges. And through working with them, we develop, oh my goodness, we need to send them to an ophthalmologist to get an evaluation, and then we find out, oh wow, they need vision therapy, right? So we need to kind of dig deep into what could be going on for this child. Um, Oftentimes too, well-intentioned parents, we see this a lot, especially with our preteens, teens, and young adults, that parents will come and say they're just not motivated, quote unquote, right? And so well-intentioned parents again are putting a lot of pressure on these kiddos, or it's the school environment, the culture that they're in that's not supporting this child to really thrive. And so there's so many different avenues you can take, but those are things that when we get a new student, we're always looking, we're checking off all those boxes to see, okay, where should we at least start? And sometimes we take aim in the wrong way and we got to pivot to a different way, right?
Yes, yeah. I know for my son, he had problems reading since preschool. He was
Mhm.
behind since preschool, and he knew he was behind, and so he had that anxiety, and then he went to a optometry appointment, and they're like, "He needs vision therapy." So then he got vision therapy, and then he was evaluated for, central auditory processing disorder, and
Wow,
he had a hearing, disorder, and then, um he's not diagnosed with PDA because they don't really diagnose that in the US, but his occupational therapist said, "I think he has pathological demand avoidance," which he gets so anxious when you place a demand on him, so when you ask him to read, he'd get really anxious and he'd just shut down. And
uh,
so, to your point of getting curious, it's very important to get curious because it's not always, "Well, they're just being defiant. They just don't wanna do it."
right.
That's not true.
Exactly. I would say 10 out of 10 times it's actually not true, right? Like
Yeah,
they
yeah.
do. They're little, they want to please their adults, they want to please their teacher, their parents. And so, they're not trying to act these ways. It's just that, the demands are exceeding what they're capable of in that moment.
Yeah, I always say kids don't do things just to do things. There's always a reason. And
Yeah,
the reason is generally not to make you mad. Like, they
exactly.
don't want to make you mad. They don't want you to be upset with them. They do want to do things to make you happy.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I love that you said get curious. So what does it look like after you get curious? Like, what can parents expect when they work with you?
Okay, so with the learning educational therapist, we would, you know, if t- usually they'll come with us and say they're really struggling in reading, right? So we can either refer them out to get an assessment or we do our own screening tests. The screening test is not enough to get accommodations at school. So if we really think this child is in need of interventions at school and we need to have accommodations for them, then we'll refer them out to a psych ed or to a neuropsych report. But if we say, they're struggling with reading, right? We've ruled out auditory processing, we've ruled out vision. Then we'll start with Orton Gillingham. It's just one structured literacy approach to teaching reading for kids, right? We'll also work with, let's say it's math. So we're going to use base 10 blocks to teach it. So everything that we use is really multisensory, really engaging for the child. Every lesson is personalized to that child. So, if they like learning about NASA, right? Like whatever we're teaching them is going to incorporate topics of high interest for them. Because most of the time, our kids they don't have one diagnosis. They tend to have more than one diagnosis, right? Um, so, they're different for a child with ADHD. It all depends really on age, right? What age is the child, what their learning profile looks like. So we have students who are, 2E, right? Twice exceptional kids where they're off the charts in one subtest and then really low in another subtest. And so it's helping them we want to, think about, okay, knowing all that we know about this child, how can we curate the lesson to help them learn what is more challenging for them and tap into the cognitive processes that are much stronger for them. Um, so there's so many ways, but yes, at We Thrive we do ADHD. So we'll focus a lot on executive function and how we differ ourselves from everyone else's. It's truly coaching. So we'll blend motivational interviewing techniques with educational therapy techniques, with coaching techniques to really help this child, come up with their own goals and progress forward. And then a lot of the work that we do with our kiddos with ADHD is really helping the parents to sort of wean off of directing, providing all the support. Because parents, we're used to telling our kids what to do, right? Like that we have more horizon, so we know what's coming down the pipeline for them. But for them, they don't want to hear
Yeah.
it. Right? They don't want to know, like, okay, I get it. I need to use a planner. They're not going to use it. And so through coaching, we really try to create lasting change for them. Like, what are some strategies that they're coming up with that are not being imposed on them?
Yeah, I think that's really important too, not to do things that are imposed on them, especially for kids who might have PDA, and making it their idea so that they don't feel like you're not telling them what to do, and so then they go into, like, fight or flight, but if you just let them come up with it, then they're more likely to do it, and it's not just kids that have PDA, I just have been thinking about that a lot, so it's all kids, like, if
Yes.
they come with it, they're more invested in doing something than if you say, "Well, this is what's best for you."
Exactly. They know what's like best for them, quote unquote,
Yeah.
right? It's just that, like all of us, they're striving for their autonomy, their independence, and they're developing. It's actually really healthy for them to try to push and, themselves away from us and try to be their own person. And so when we see that happening, we feel like we're losing control. And any loss of control is stress inducing, right? So
Mhm.
we're losing control by giving them more space, but that's actually what's most beneficial for them.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard maybe it was on someone told this on this podcast. I can't remember where I heard this from, but the kid was a valedictorian.
Mhm.
He did great in school, and then he went to college and completely fell apart. He was failing all his classes. He couldn't make it to class on time because when he was in high school, his parents did everything for him except doing the actual work. But they're like, okay, now you have to do this. Now you have to do this. Now you have to do this. And he was very managed. And so, but his parents didn't realize that that's what they were doing. And so when he gets to college and no one's doing that for him, he just fell apart. So I love that you teach kids to be independent and as independent as they can be, um, and just
Yeah.
have those realistic expectations for kids, but so they can thrive when they're not with their parents all the time.
Correct. Yeah. And that is so hard for parents, right? Because like we continue to do and do and do, the message that we're unconsciously sending them is, I don't think you can do by yourself. And so I need to step in and try to rescue you. And so the kids
Yeah.
develop the problem solving skills or the skills that they really need to function independently without our support. So beginning in high school, right? Right at around eighth grade, high school, we're always like, you're sending the emails. You can CC parents on the emails, but you're the one that's sending the emails. They're beginning to manage their own calendar, schedule their own appointments. Like before a child goes to college, they need to be able to wake up and go to sleep on their own, have good stress coping strategies, be able to say no, right? Advocate for themselves. So they need to be really self aware. This is what works for me. This is what doesn't work for me. This is what I know I'm good at. This is what other areas that are challenging. And they need to, be advocating with their teachers. So again, in high school, they should be included in the IEP meetings. Any teacher meetings that are having or that are being done, they should include the child in them. Anything that's affecting the child should have the child's input in it. And so, ordering their own medication, learning how to take their medication, being diligent about that. So, yeah, it's a big, that's why we say to parents, we start around middle school to start looking down to see what's coming down the pipeline, and then by senior year these are the expectations that they should have developed. If they don't have them yet, they're not ready for college yet.
Oh, yeah. And that's okay if they're not ready for college and definitely not pushing them into something that they're not ready for. Just taking that time to get them ready so they are successful when if and when they do go to college.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
cool. Thank you. That is such I love it. I love it all. Um, what resources do you have or do you recommend for parents?
For learning differences,
Yeah.
ADHD.
Just like anything you offer to parents, maybe as like free resources or like,
So
yeah, just stuff like that.
we have a free parent Facebook group called Parent Your ADHD Child with Confidence. It says ADHD in the title, but it's really for all neurodivergent kids and
Mm-hmm.
quote unquote neurotypical kids. That it's free. It's on our website, and then we also do that way we do interactive Q&As with parents, so parents can pop in every week and ask us any questions that they have. And we'll also share like a question that's come up from a parent that week or that we've heard students share with us. So we address, what's top of mind for families in for that week.
That is a fantastic resource. I love it. I'm gonna go join the group because yeah, I need help with my child. Yeah. And where can people find you online?
They can do it, follow us at WeThriveLearning.com or on our website, WeThriveLearning.com. Wait, Instagram, it's just WeThrive Learning. Website's
Okay.
WeThriveLearning.com. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. And our last question is, what do you do for fun?
Oh, I love to eat ice cream and go to coffee shops.
Nice.
Yeah, I love trying all the different flavors. When I'm at the ice cream parlor, I'm like, can I try this one, this one, this one? All of them.
That I approve. That's awesome. I love
I
ice cream.
support this message.
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
try some. Try every flavor.
Try it all.
Uh, yeah. When I was pregnant, I got really bad heartburn and I didn't know what it was because I never had heartburn before. But I knew if I ate ice cream, it would go away.
That's medicine.
Yeah, yeah. I couldn't drink water, but I could eat ice cream. And so I just had ice cream once a day when it got really bad at night. And then I went to the doctor and he was like, "You have heartburn. Stop eating ice cream," because I was gaining weight. So he was like, "You need to stop eating ice cream every day." And I was like, "I don't like this plan."
That's
But
funny.
yeah, but anyway. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show today. We really appreciate your time.
No, thank you guys so
Yeah.
much for having me. It was really nice. It was really easy to chat with you guys and really it was a fun conversation. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, Lauren, what were the highlights?
So many things. First of all, I've never heard of an educational therapist.
Yeah,
It
neither have I.
definitely makes sense. And I it sounds like it's only a thing in a few states. So I think the rest of us states need to get it together because I can only imagine how beneficial this service can be for so many people. But lots of great points. You mentioned it too. I really love that she said anyone can learn. It's just how it's presented. And again, that's so true. Like adapt and think outside of the box. And we can make great things happen when we do that.
Yeah.
I love again, and I preach about, about it a lot, but focusing on the strengths, capitalizing on the strengths. Like yes, there are things we have to work on, but let's focus on the strengths and then we can slowly see how we can incorporate these other challenges instead of just focusing on what they can't do. Um,
Yeah.
so, and we're going to build up confidence and all that when we are focusing on what we can't do. And so I really appreciated that. Always the get curious, function, the why. Um, you have to ask questions and again, think outside of the box. What could be the issue that's preventing them from doing this and this or learning this and just really digging deep as parents and educators of to find ways to help them grow and learn, right?
Yes.
And then uh we've been talking about this again, parents, they love their children, they want to protect them and they want the best for them, but sometimes when we do that we're too helpful and we're enabling them to not learn and grow. And so something that I talk a lot about in my training is allowing individuals the opportunity to risk failure. That is how we learn and grow. And if we're not allowing our kids to do that, then they're not going to know what to do when you are not there. And I think it's really important. And I know we don't want to see anyone get hurt or feelings hurt or be down on themselves and all of that, not so fun stuff. But sometimes it's just kind of life and we have to allow it to happen so we can teach them how to move on from it. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for
I
sure.
really love that. And then she talked about it. And I think this is really important. And I think sometimes we forget. Um, but as long as they have any kind of voice, they should have a voice in any support services that they are receiving. They should be
Hmm.
included in that in as much way as possible. Because yes, it's plans and when we write goals and all of that, we want what's important for them, but we also really want what's important to them. Um, Otherwise, why? What's the what's the point if it doesn't have
Yeah.
anything what I like and things like that. And so I really appreciate that, they're incorporating their interests in things. And so if they like cooking, we're gonna use like cooking terms and stuff when I help you with math and fractions and how much sugar. Like that's just kind of how I imagine that in my head. And so I love that they're doing that because I think kids are gonna obviously be more engaged and more motivated when it's something that they enjoy. So
Yes,
great thing.
exactly.
I love
Yeah.
it. Love it all.
Yeah. And even if the kids are non-speaking, they can still communicate. They can
Mhm.
still have a say in what they do. And I think that's important to remember that just because your kid is non-speaking doesn't mean that they don't have opinions, doesn't mean that they
Yeah.
can't communicate with you. Um, find a way to communicate. If
Uh,
that's an AAC device, if that's I guess iPads are technically considered an AAC device, but different forms of communication.
Whether formal or informal,
Yeah.
whatever made up sign you created that works for you guys, go for it. Whatever, even if it's pen and paper, I don't know. There's like
Yeah.
so many things. Like again, just think outside of the box and get really creative.
Hmm.
We can find out a lot more that way. So
Yeah. Yeah. I was really happy that she talked about getting curious because, like, I know one of my family members, they struggled in school for 10 years and they just said, the school said she just doesn't want to do it. She's just being defiant. And it turns out that she had vision processing issues. And that was why she read slow. That's why she didn't like going to school. And she still got like really good grades in high school and you know, in the other like middle school too. And when her visual processing disorder was so severe that the doctor was shocked when he said she should be getting F's and D's, like not even C's. Like that's how severe her vision processing disorder is. And so I think we do not give kids enough benefit, because like benefit of the doubt. Like
Yeah.
they are trying so hard. And
You
it's
know,
like she said, 10 out of 10 times, it is not because they just don't want to do it and lack motivation and want to be defiant.
yeah.
So they want to do well. And then I know for some people, like it just gets too hard. And that's when they just stop trying because it's so hard. I know my son tried so hard to read. And then it just got to this point where he's like, I don't even want to do it anymore. I'm never going to be able to read. What's the
Yeah.
point? And then that's when we got like the vision processing and vision therapy and hearing aids and all that. And now he's reading.
I'm
So,
I'm starting to think, and I don't know. I remember getting random checks for things in school, like scoliosis. I remember like
mhm.
that being a thing. And I feel like there should be some sort of basic or free like vision processing tests or auditory tests when kids are entering school.
Yeah,
I can just imagine how much of a difference it might make for kids and families to catch those things early instead of the struggle for so long before like they figure out the answer, because I feel like this comes up a lot. Like these are
yeah,
things. They're more more common than not. Like why are we doing this in school? Like first, second grade,
yeah,
everyone gets there's a day where everyone just goes through and gets tested. I don't know. I think that should be a
yeah,
thing. That's all.
yeah. Well, they get vision and hearing tests. The
Do they?
problem is with the processing disorder, like my kids, they all have auditory processing disorder, but their hearing, fantastic. They just don't process it, you know? And with the vision processing, like my son can see 20/20 vision. He has 20/20 vision, but the
Just
processing
kind of
is,
computing what he's
yeah,
looking at.
yeah, he can't understand what he's looking at. And so, yeah, so then people will be like, well, he can see fine, he can hear fine. What's the issue? And I'm like, it's what's going on in the brain. It's not
Yeah.
fine. So, yeah, but anyway, so thank you all for listening this week. We really appreciate you downloading the episodes, giving us reviews. I've gotten some really good feedback on the show this week, so thanks for sending your feedback. And yeah, let us know what you want to hear. Who do you want us to interview? If you have a guest that you want us to interview, if you have a topic you want us to talk about, let us know. And yeah, we'll see you next week.